Good evening and welcome to the 405th meeting of the New York Comics and Picture-story Symposium. This is a weekly lecture series on comics, animation, illustration, and other text image work. It's funded by the Will and Ann Eisner Family Foundation and the New School. Our guests tonight are Pei-shan Huang, whose talk is entitled The Slow Truth, Asian Graphic Novels by Slowork Publishing. And the evening will be moderated by Cheng. And some short bios. Pei-shan is the founder of Slowork Publishing, and Slowork Publishing is an independent press from Taiwan that specializes in documentary graphic novels about communities in Asia. It works with artists to boost regional creative energies, establish a new Asian graphic novel, and amplify an authentic, homegrown visual narration to a global audience. Cheng is based in Singapore. He writes about history and popular culture. He is the Singapore country editor for the International Journal of Comic Art, and his latest book is entitled Drawn to Satire: Sketches of Cartoonists in Singapore, which is a comic book about comic artists. So, Cheng, would you like to take it away?
Okay, hi. Thanks everyone for dropping by. I know, yes, like Ben said, we are competing against the US elections. But I suppose if you're here, then comics is more important than politics. Yeah, so good evening. But of course, for me and Pei-shan, we are in Asia. It's in the morning right now. In fact, it's 7 p.m. in New York on the 5th. For me, it's the 6th, the next day, 8 a.m. In Singapore, and for Pei-shan is 7 a.m. in Taiwan. All right, again, following day on the 6th of November. Yep. So thanks for the intro, Ben. I think I think this will be an interesting session because I think we're having a conversation about global regional comics, and I suppose there is a need to know more about. I mean, if you're interested in comics, about comics from all over the world, all right, and not just from North America or from Europe, but from Asia. And of course, Asia manga is popular, manhwa is popular from Korea, but there are so many comics from other parts of Asia, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia. And of course, Pei-shan will talk about that because she has published comics from Southeast Asia. And really, to me, Pei-shan and Slowork, what Slowork is doing is actually very important. So interestingly, I can't quite remember how I got to know her about Slowork, but it must be through the internet. I got friends to bring back Slowork books from Taiwan when they were holidaying there. And I think I met Pei-shan online in 2021 at a panel which I moderated for the Singapore Writers' Fairs. We have corresponded over emails, chat online, social media, and I only got to meet her in person only this year at Ongalam in January. All right, I was walking down the street and I saw her and recognized her. So again, I think we'll learn a lot from Pei-shan and Slowork, and maybe just a bit of anecdote before I hand over to Pei-shan. When I was in Ongalam earlier this year, I was hanging out with Taiwanese pavilion, and we're talking about developments in Taiwanese comics. And I think Pei-shan should know this, right? I mean, they refer to you as a xiao jingling, all right? It's almost like a little pixie. And I thought in a way it's appropriate because she is weaving magic in that sense for Asian comics. So to me, she's really one of the most important publisher and editor in Asian comics publishing right now. Yeah. So Pei-shan, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Okay, let me start it. So I call the session the slow truth, because that is what I'm trying to do, trying to looking for. We are very slow. That's why I named my publishing house Slowork, because I realized that making comic is a long process, and also understanding the truth, the word, is also a very long process. So the idea of Slow Publishing is making Asian graphic novel. So let me go to the next page. I only do original work, so I don't publish any translated work from other country. But I do work with author from the other country. So in the beginning, I decided to do only original work in the form of graphic novel, and focus on Asian culture, Asian story, worked especially with Asian author. So that was the idea, and this is our collection, but I will go back to why I'm doing this and how I found the idea to found the Slowork. So initially, I was a student of art school. I was in theater when I was in Taiwan. And then I spent 3 years in France, and I was in art school in Marseille. And I discovered graphic novel and European comic while I study in Marseille. So that was the first time I saw some nonfiction comic, which is about something based on true. Nowadays, I use the term based on true, but in the beginning, I used documentary comic or nonfiction comic, but the idea will keep changing. So I realized that fiction is always important, narration is important, and there is so many possibility, especially when we use the form of comic. So now I prefer to say based on true. Yeah. But anyway, after I finish art school, actually I want to do documentary film, and I in the past I want to be an artist actually. So I'm looking for what to do. Like I try performance, I try film, and I was interested in documentary film. I moved back to Asia. I live in Yunnan. So Yunnan is a region of China, but close to Southeast Asia. So I was based in Yunnan, but move around a lot in Southeast Asian country. I bought a camera. I start to shoot something of the minority culture and trying many, many things. I was 28, 29. And finally, I start to think all these things of documentary film is too complicated, because I was in a very rural countryside, and I feel like shooting people with a big camera. And also, if you know about documentary film, you will know that you need a group, even a small group, even at least 2 or 3 people. You cannot really walk alone, but I really want to walk alone. And I feel like the camera, the machine is a boundary, and also it was more than 10 years ago. The distribution of documentary film is quite complicated. You need a good computer to edit your video, and then you need to apply the film festival, because at that time we don't have stream, so you cannot distribute your documentary film online. You need to apply the festival, go to join the festival. At the end, people need to go to the festival to watch documentary film. So suddenly I think about the comic, the nonfiction comic I read in Europe. Suddenly I think, why not just make comic, just make graphic novel, and documentary all this culture I saw in Southeast Asia. So that I suddenly stop everything and start to think about this idea. But first things coming to me is I don't draw very well. And if I want to be the artist, then I need to start everything from the beginning, like learn how to draw comic, and it's gonna take me 10 years, and it's impossible. I was almost 30 already. But I was thinking that why I really want to be the artist. I can also be a producer. There are so many good artists in Asia. I can just collaborate with them. And if I were artist, maybe I will make one book every 2 years. I don't know. But if I'm producer, maybe I can produce five or more books in 1 year, and that will be much more efficient. And when I imagined this idea, I found I can enjoy it. So I actually realized that I don't need to be an artist. I just want to get involved in the art, in the narration, in the creative content industry, something like this. So I start to study publisher. So actually, Slowork is my first job in the publishing industry. I never worked with the other publisher, so I learned everything by myself. So I read a lot of book and I did a lot of research online. And most of things I learned with experience. So in the beginning, I was alone. I found the author, and we do something very small. Like the first book of Slowork was only 32 page, and I printed by hand with silk screen. I do silk screen by myself. We produce 350 books with English, Mandarin, and French, three language. And I just try to distribute on my way. Like I open online order, and I took order by myself, send to the customer directly. I bring our book to the bookshop and introduce our book directly to the bookshop. So little by little, it's grow little by little. And now it's already 11 years after. Um, our direction has modified little by little, but not that much. I think I'm still doing what I want as before. So let me show you the collection that we have. So we publish from one book to five book per year. It depends. So in the beginning, I only produce one book per year. Then it's slowly grow up to five book. And I found that five is too much. Now we are two editor. But yeah, we produce everything from the beginning. And also graphic novel is not that common and popular in Asia, so you have actually much more editing work with the author. You need to stay with them from the beginning to the end. You need to discuss a lot with the author and also develop the idea together. Yeah, it spent a lot of time. So I found that while we produce five, maybe I couldn't really control the quality very well. So now we go back to 2 to 3 title per year, and we have two collection. New Wave is only story based on truth, but as I say before, based on true, but we can add fiction, and we can use all the narration skill. It's very open because the goal is to understand the truth, but not telling the fact. Yeah. So and the other option, the other collection called New World, we started from 2020. So it was 7 years after I found Slowork. We started to want to do some fiction, and that is because there's some limit with nonfiction. Actually, there's something more complicated you want to tell, and also it's more fun. And there's many good artists I know that they don't really want to do nonfiction style. Their style of narration is more fiction. But I still choose the topic, which is very deep related about the reality. So it just the way of narration is fiction, but what we want to reflect is still something that the issue today. Yeah. So in New World, the story is happen in the future. That is the idea. But it's also the intention is still to reflect prison. Yeah. And then we have Monsoon. Monsoon initially was an anthology in the beginning. So we made full volume of anthology, which is a documentary comic. And then it became a collection that I can put all the other alternative experimental comic. Yeah. Okay. Then so this is the important title that we did. So I think we publish almost like between 25 to 30 title until now. And this is the most important title. So there's Monsoon, the magazine, that anthology I mentioned before. And there is Son of Formosa, actually the English version called The Boys from Clearwater. This one um, was translated to 8 language already. Not all of them are published. I think there were 2 languages not published yet. And we got a lot of awards for this title, and not only in Taiwan, but also in France, German, and USA. And A Trip to the Asylum, it's the first comic that get fiction award in Taiwan. So that is a very important milestone. And the 2 other title is from, so the Son of Formosa and A Trip to the Asylum is from New Wave collection, so based on true story. And Console 2073 and Mayfly Island is from New World collection, so they are fiction. So all this title has been sold to different language, at least 3 different language. So it's working pretty well. The last year, I think since COVID, I focus a lot on the foreign right, and I participate a lot of international book fair, and it's working pretty well. So from the beginning, my goal is actually making Asian story, but for the global audience. That is very important for me. Why? Because actually I saw a lot of interesting nonfiction graphic novel and comic in Europe, but about Asia, it's always Japanese and Korean at that time. And I think we still have a lot to do about all the other country. And also I found comic is very interesting form to do nonfiction. At that time, actually, there are some graphic novel about the other country, but most of them made by European people. And when I read those comics, sometimes I was totally not agree of the vision of those artists, and I was thinking like, okay, I want to um, tell this story by local people, and one day I want to show you those production. So that was a goal 11 years ago. And so I'm now very happy that we sell a lot of foreign right. I also tell my author while we doing editing process, I always tell them that you have to imagine you are telling story to the world, not just for the Taiwanese audience. That changed the way you create, that changed the way you tell the story. And I think it's very important to think about that from the beginning. Yeah, because if you just think about your local market, then some message gonna miss because it's you think that it's common sense. Everybody know that. So or you're gonna make some joke which is super local. So actually we try to think about the global audience from the beginning. Okay, now let's talk about some important title. So some of Formosa's, we decide this English title when we publish in Taiwan, but actually the original title is very, very close to this translation, The Boy from Clearwater. So at that time, we think this name maybe is not very understandable or international. So we didn't translate that direct. So the Boy from Clearwater initially is the title for the local people. And Clearwater is the city that the town, the small township that the protagonist born. It's called Qingxue in Taichung. And actually, it should be pronounced in Japanese at that time because the protagonist was born in 1930. And at that time, Taiwan was colonized by Japan. So Qingxue was pronounced in Japanese at that time. Anyway, so the Chinese title is like this because in Taiwan, we all know where is Qingxue. So it sounds like, okay, a little boy born there. So we are telling a biography, his story. And but when we think about the English title, we think, okay, maybe for the international audience, they don't know where is Qingxue, then that's no meaning for them. So they want to hear about a story of a Taiwanese. And actually, in the past, Taiwan is not very famous. Many, many people don't know about Taiwan, but they know Formosa. So that's how we imagine this title. But it was really interesting because now we have 6 to 8 international version already, and choose a different. Each translator has their own choice about the title. So let's talk about the English one. This is the only version who translate like this, like the original one, The Boy from Clearwater. And I get very different feedback from people. So in Taiwan, many people think, oh, no way, you couldn't translate clear water that direct Qingxue. It's mean clear water, but they found it's very weird. But actually, my right agent told me that she think it's very smart choice because in America there is really a lot of town has this kind of name, so we can feel it's a common people story. It's a boy from somewhere, yeah, and that is very close to the original intention. But anyway, the other foreign language version is mostly translate like Son of Taiwan, for example. French version is Son of Taiwan because they think nowadays young people don't know about Formosa at all. So don't use the word Formosa, they use Taiwan. And the German version called Cai Kunling, they use the name of the protagonist. And Japanese version is very close to Son of Formosa. It's a young people from Taiwan. They also use Taiwan. Yeah. So that is a very interesting thing. And initially this work was published in full volume. So English version is in 2 volume, but it's the same amount of content. You didn't lose anything. Okay, so it's in 2 book. So they combine the first and second volume in the book 1 and third, fourth volume in book 2. So this is, I think, it's very easy to understand for people because nowadays we have so many biography graphic novel about different country, different culture. It's always about the story of a common people. So the first one, the first comic like this, I read is Persepolis of Marjan Satabi. And it was the first graphic novel that I read in France. And my French was very bad at that time, but I can totally understand this book. Like the word that author use are very simple, and the drawing is black and white and it's very simple. But actually, I was very unfamiliar with the culture of Iran, so I was so surprised with this form. That was a culture shock for me because I read manga since I was a child, but I never read any manga like this about a true story. And it's still easy to learn, but after read that book, I understand I couldn't say I understand the whole culture of Iran, but I start to understand and I start to be interested in their culture. It's not that far from me anymore. So that is the goal. And Taiwan is a very small country. We even need to add this for the word country. So actually, it's for me a very important mission to have this kind of biography since I found Slowork. And it's totally not easy. So this title we have published in 2020. Yeah, and I found Slowork 2013. That was already the goal to make a biography like this, but it took me 7 years to achieve this goal because it's very hard to find author who want to spend that long time and who also understand this kind of work, how to work this, and you need to do a lot of interview with the true person, do a lot of research. For example, this comic cover Taiwan from 1930 until 2020. And 1930, Taiwan was colonized by Japan, and then new government arrived at 1945. So after World War II, so the clothes changing, the road changing, the everything decoration changed, and so you need to do a lot of research to draw all these things. So you can see that the author used four different style to because it's cover a very long period. So and the tone of the story also changed. So he really want to express all these different vibe with different style. Yeah, so we use four different style. And this is the photo of the protagonist. So this is when Mr. Tai was young, and the other person on the photo is his wife. So oh, sorry. And this is when we met him in around 2020, I think maybe a little bit before 2018. So actually, author meets Mr. Tai in 2017, 18, somewhere like this. And this is our book event. So actually, he was alive when we published the book, and he just passed by last year. Yeah, so pretty long life, 93 years old. And he was a very normal people, but his life story really covered all the very important political and economic issue in Taiwan. So it's a very good protagonist for to understand Taiwanese contemporary history. And he is very, very charming person. Actually, the girl is the script writer, and the guy is the comic artist. So the script writer has met Mr. Tai in Taidong University because she was the professor of the Taidong University, and she organized an exhibition about the history. And Mr. Tai came to university, and she found, wow, this old people is very, very charming. And when I get old, I want to be someone like him. That is the starting point that she want to tell his story. And of course, his story is very, very rich. And he was a comic editor in the past and a very important editor. So he really know how to tell the story. So when he tell us about his life story, it's always full of the detail. So that make you imagine how to draw it as well. And our script writer and also the comic artist, they are actually all from the illustration book industry. But why they decide to make a graphic novel is because they start to want to make something for adult and also tell some story more complete. That illustration book is a little bit limited for them. They have also think about animation film, but the animation film industry in Taiwan is not very developed and it costs a lot of money and time. So at that time they meet me. I already started to do some books already, and so it was like perfect moment and perfect person. Then we launched the project. So the entire book is around 660 pages, and we took 2 years to finish it. Actually, I think it's pretty fast because the comic artist Zhou Jianxing is a very serious person. He sit in front of his deck every day and from morning to the night and just draw, and he is very happy with that. This is the last time I met Mr. Tai, and this guy is our Arabic language editor. So he came to Taiwan and he said he really want to meet Mr. Tai. So we went to Mr. Tai's place, and this is his wife. Yeah. So you saw the image that when they were young and when they were old, and you will see them in the book as well. So from actually they met at 3 years old. They already met each other, and Mr. Tai already fall in love with her wife at 3 years old. It's also a love story. So that is why I like this kind of a common people biography, because you learn the big history, but there's also something very like life story, love story, and family story. So every people can easily understand, even it's about a culture really far away from you. Yeah. Okay. And we have a very interesting collaboration with a rock band in Taiwan. They call Sorry Youth. So we make a music video with Sorry Youth, and because this song is very related about what we talk in the book about the political issue. It's very related. So we propose with them of our book content and imagine how can we collaborate. So in their music video, we replay a story, which is a little bit different. So initially, we want to invite Mr. Tai to play the main role, but his health was not super well at that time. So he just played a little part in the music video, but we invited the other person to play the main role. And we also do some animation with the book's content. So I will play just a little bit because the song is long, but I will give you the link later. You can watch the entire music video. The song is very good. and you have the lyric in English as well. So I just play a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry. That finished. Okay. I will give you the link and you can watch online. So you see this, the Sen is actually a comic rental bookshop. So this is very, very common in the past in Taiwan, but now we still have it, but very, very rare. So we also put this like about the rental bookshop, and it's about the censorship actually, because in the past around 1960 there was a lot of censorship in Taiwan, especially for comics. So but you will read the detail in our graphic novel, why we give censorship with the comic book, and how Mr. Tai tried to survive and tried to make the other comic artists survive under this pressure. Yeah. Okay, so let me move to other work. And so as I said, I don't only work with Taiwanese artists, so I also work with artists from China, from Hong Kong, and from Southeast Asia. So this one is a Chinese artist, and it's also it's not a biography, it's more a memoir of his family. So the story was told from the grandmother of author, and it's the story about the father of the grandmother. So great grandfather. Okay, story. And it was happened at 1947 in China. Before everybody know Cultural Revolution, but very few people know land reformation. So the story start at the land reformation period. Land reformation is very similar than Cultural Revolution, and it was the beginning of the scenes of the communists. So the communists arrived and they want to redistribute the land. So the family of Auster was in a very, very small town, and people also organized and they start to do the revolution. And his family actually was not the landlord, but the teacher. So they were teacher in the private school. And why things happened at his family? It was because the villager don't know how to write, but while we do the revolution, we need to write the big poster, to again sing. So all the villagers came to see the great grandfather of my author and say, could you help? Could you help to write something to against the other villager, which was landlord? But they say no, because they think we are all neighbor and we have no different. They are a little bit richer than us, but we don't have to do this. And so they say no, and then actually the bad things happen to them. So the story is about the two brothers has made very different decision at that moment when they have to be kicked out from their home and everything goes very, very bad. So one decide to leave and one decide to stay. And the one who leave he actually arrived in Taiwan by the boat. It was a very long way anyway. And no one know what happened about each other actually, because at that time, the Kuomintang arrived in Taiwan and communists stay in China, and there was a inner war until now actually. But at that time it was very serious, so all the connection has been cut. So those two brothers don't have any idea about what happened to each other. Only after 50 years, suddenly the grandmother of my author received a letter from Taipei, and it was sent to his father, which has already passed by. So they opened the letter and they realized it was the brother who ran out, and actually he arrived in Taiwan. And several years later, it started to be possible to visit from Taiwan to mainland, and this brother came back and relearned what happened. And so this comic book actually telling how it's different and not really different when you make the different decision. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, the comic art is also very special. So it's drawn with the blue pen and on the photocopy paper. The original artwork was really amazing. Yeah, it's very, very beautiful. So it's actually look like the ancient comic in China, but a little bit different. So if you have read any Lian Huanhua from the past, it's look very similar. But he is telling a story that is very long time ago. So I think it matched pretty well. Yeah. So this one is translated in German language and French language as well. So if any of you is from this part of Europe or you can understand this language, you can find it. So it's letter from Taipei. Yeah. And actually, this story would be impossible to publish in China. There is nothing against the government right now, but it's just impossible nowadays. I think 10 years ago it was possible, but now it's impossible. So it's also very important for us to support this kind of content. And actually, Taiwan is very important in the publishing industry, in the Mandarin publishing industry, to support this kind of work, not only for comic, actually for fiction, nonfiction, all of the book. Yeah. So we publish a lot of authors from China and from now, sadly, also from Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay, so the other important work that is a trip to the asylum. This is the first graphic novel who get the fiction award in Taiwan. This is about the trauma, from the childhood and mainly from the family and the society. Okay, I will show you this one with a video. It's a short video, so we're gonna watch the entire video so you can see a little bit of artwork. Okay. So
Sorry to interject, but actually the artist Pam Liu was just in, I think, New York earlier this year for Mocha, so I'm not sure any of you met
yeah,
her.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So we don't have English version yet, but I had already translated the whole book in English. I hope it's gonna happen soon. Now we have sold the French version just came out. Korean version just finished the translation, and we had still the Polish version. Very exciting. So this book has two storyline. One is inside an asylum, the other is outside asylum, and it's about a family. There's sister, brother, and a daughter of the sister. And actually, everything happened outside the asylum was the true story from Pan's family. What is happened inside asylum is from her imagination, but the imagination is not just a narration. It is not just the imagination. It's to describe the state, the mental state of her uncle. So it's from the understanding of her uncle she invent the story of inside the story inside asylum. So that is the thing. So this one I also put on the based on true collection. Okay, so let's move to other work. This title was published in 2023. So I have introduced some work about history, biography, trauma. This is the story of the past. And Myanmar, the last battle is the first work that we talk about the right now, the things still in progress. So it is about the last revolution in Myanmar since 2021. So we talk about how it's happened, why it's happened, and also there's some history background as well. So this is also the first time I make an exception to accept the French author who has spent 20 years in to observe the situation of Myanmar. And because I don't know any Burmese artist, which is good enough for both for communication and also for the artwork. I think there must have someone like this, but I don't know them. So with a careful thinking, I choose Guangxin Liu. It's an artist from Hong Kong, and now he lives in Taiwan to draw this story. I didn't choose Taiwanese artists because I think at least someone from Hong Kong can understand a little bit better the situation in Myanmar. So this is the first work. We talk about something still in progress, and I found it's really, really difficult. It's really, really difficult. I know that in Western world, there are a lot of comic like this, but personally, I found it's really difficult because it's not finished yet. How do you define what happened now? And a book gonna stay very long time. So I have to think about people who gonna read it 20 years later. And how can I imagine that? It's a very complicated thing. But anyway, we made it because I think what happened in Myanmar needs to be known by the world. And we also translate by ourselves in four language. So it's Mandarin, it's written in French actually, and we translate it in Mandarin, English, Burmese, and Thai. And we put the Thai version and Burmese version online for free. So we really want to distribute this content. Okay. This one is from Southeast Asia. It's from Malaysia by Novia Shin. It's called Baskara, and I put it, this is a wrong logo. I put it in the Monsoon version because it's a very special book. So we do the leather card, and it's more like an illustration book. But Novia has also made some comic in our anthology. So Basagara is mean the flea market. It's the name of flea market in Malay. So Novia drew the flea market from her hometown, Ipoh. And for her, the flea market is kind of alternative history textbook for her. So she described how she loved, who introduced the flea market to her, and what she found in the flea market. So there were around, I think, 40 page of the laser card, and you're gonna walk into the flea market little by little while flipping the book. And at the end, you have another 30 page combined with the photo, with the photo and the drawing to show her collection from the flea market. And actually, with all this object or photo or the old photo, she gonna tell you the history of Malaysia, of Ipoh. Yeah, so it's something very experimental. It's not totally comic, but we accept this kind of project when we love the project, when we love the artists. Yeah. And also, I want to mention that this one, Pan Pan Liu. Pan Pan Liu is an artist from underground comic world. So I think Slowork is kind of first publisher who really bring the underground artists to the commercial industry. We start to do this with Pan Pan, and later we also bring other artists from this world. Yeah, but this kind of style is very unusual in our market. Yeah. Okay, and let's move on. So Monsoon that I mentioned before, it's anthology. Actually, this one published before all those books I introduced you before. At that time, actually, it for me very hard to build the album as I introduced you before. So I start to make anthology because I can invite artists to do short stories, so it's easier for them. So I made four volume, and each volume has a topic, and I introduced some international graphic novel in the anthology, and then I invited 7 to 10 artists to make short story with their own style. And also we have some collaboration with journalists or the documentary film director or curator. And this is after COVID, we made another anthology called White Future. And at that time, we already have two collections. So White Future is in two volumes. One volume is story based on true, and one volume is story in the future. And it's all about pandemic. So the main topic is pandemic. So one is the true thing happened during COVID, and the other is imagine that pandemic do very long time and how the work gonna be. Yeah. Okay. So, and quickly talk about, I also added some work with the media. So this one is about Ukraine war, and the other one is about the marine life issue. This is the drawing style. Okay, and I want to quickly introduce what we are doing right now, the new things we just launched yesterday. So I launched a frontline nonfiction comic fellowship that we gonna take the proposal from comic artists, and you are free to collaborate with journalists, researcher, or writer, whoever, to propose a non-fiction comic project. And this is why we do that, but I will skip it. And we're gonna offer a grant up to $6,000. And we give one by one editor, we give professional editor to help you, and we give you 4 months to finish the work. And we will help them to do the pitching with the publisher and the medium, the media, and not only for Mandarin language, but also for international publisher or international media. But of course, this fellowship is open for everyone without limit of nationality, but limited in language. So still we have to organize the language issue. So it's only for Mandarin, I would say Chinese language, because it can include the dialect. Yeah. So we found we had a very big group of the jury, and this 5 person from different domain and is the final juries. But we invite more than 20 jury to do the written review, so to review all the proposal and give the comment back, and we're gonna choose around 10 proposal and do the interview with the final jury, and then we give the help. Yeah. And this team, so I work with a team called Frontline Fellowship. They already launched 4 season of nonfiction writing fellowship. So actually, I was jury this year for the writing award, and I found that wow, their system is very open and very well designed, and that is really perfect to collaborate and to make a comic, make one for the comic. So I just proposed that, and they say yes, and we worked for 7 months already. We just launched it yesterday, and well, and we hope to do it every year, because actually the feedback from the professional jury is very important to get that the artists improve their proposal, and sometimes they will come back the second year with different versions. So it's kind of building the community together and to grow together. So it's a very exciting new project. So, and at the end, I would like to give you our website and contact, and also about this fellowship. So now the translation, AI translation is very good. So even it's all in Mandarin, you can still have a look of it. Yeah. So thank you very much to come today.
Thank you, Pei-shan. Yeah, that's really extensive and exciting news about the Frontline Fellowship. Yeah, I don't think we have such things like this before. So I hope those attending and those watching this on YouTube later on will spread the word for this fellowship. I think because I think it goes beyond just Asia, right? I mean, you have Chinese population in all parts of the world, and they could apply for this. Yeah. So like Pei-shan says, across nationality.
Hi, it would be good if you could quit the share so we can see you larger. You can close your screen.
Yeah, close my stop sharing.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'll just make a few quick points and ask a question or two before I open up to the floor, because I think I always find interesting for such sessions is actually questions from the public. Actually, I would wholeheartedly recommend, because it is translated in English and available in America on sale. Boy from Clearwater. In fact, I hosted Zhou Tianxin earlier in Singapore this year, because he was here for one of the Writers' Festival. I moderated his session, so we hung out a bit and we went out for dinner. And it is a very good book. I read the Chinese edition, and this English translated edition is very well done. And Zhou Xinjian told me the same story, why they chose the title Boy from Clearwater, which is actually much closer, is exactly the same as the Taiwanese Chinese title. So I think that book is really a very good entry point to Slowork. So I highly recommend it. And like I said, I think you should find it in America, hopefully in the bookshops, if not on Amazon or whatever. Yeah. So my question for Pei-shan, and of course she has explained why she chose slow work because, it takes time. I think it's good to slow things down because things are so fast these days with social media, right, with TikTok. So you slow things down and you are patient to produce good work, good comic work. But of course, I think I read elsewhere, there's also from the phrase, right, 慢工出细活, all right, where it's a similar meaning, right? You slow down to do important works. But maybe I was just curious when I was doing some research whether Pei-shan, you are influenced by slow cinema as well, right? Because that to me is quite a major genre in documentary filmmaking and also in Taiwanese cinema. People like Cai Mingliang, all right, in terms of slow cinema, and even is a big or is a quite important genre in art house cinema in Europe. Yeah. Were you influenced by slow cinema?
Not really.
Okay.
I like those work. I like all the work which take time. Actually, so I mentioned before that I want to do documentary film, and many of documentary film took like many years to finish, and they have to shoot so many footage and to choose the one they want. It's very different than the fiction. The fiction you imagine what you want to shoot and then you shoot, and the footage might be double of your film, but in documentary it could be like 10 times more than the results. So I always like things that we take time to do. So the idea is not to be slow, it's take time. That is the meaning of
Yes.
the original sentence. Yeah.
And I mean, in my mind, one of the most important documentaries is actually the Up series. I don't know, you know about that. It's done in the UK, 7 and up, 14 and up. So it covers a whole generation. I think now it's up to, so every 7 years they go back to this group of people since young and cover their lives. Yeah. So that talks, I think it's still ongoing. I think, but some of them have passed away. It's been more than 50 years. So that's really, well, like I say, it's not slow, but it takes a long time. It's a lifetime, in fact. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, because again, in my mind, Boy from Clearwater is, like you say, it's about Taiwanese history. Actually, it's about comics history in Taiwan, but also about Cold War history. And actually, this idea of politics and history, I think, weighs heavily on what we do and what we read. And maybe I'll just round back to Taiwanese comics. And I find, okay, my own observations. I visited Taiwan, and I visited the Taiwan Pavilion in Ongolem, and I could see that there are a lot of support for comics from Taiwan state, from Taiwan government. And my own reading, okay, this is my own reading, so feel free to correct, is that actually it's a very clever and I think a rather important cultural move by the Taiwanese government to actually show the rest of the world that, we are Taiwan and these are Taiwanese books, these are Taiwanese comic books, and we are different from China. Yeah. So yeah.
Actually, we are promoting our soft power in general, so not only for comic, but for all the creative content. So I think the idea is inspired from the Korean government. They start earlier than us, and that result is very successful. So with K-pop, K-drama, so their comic is also very powerful. So we actually create a new official agency by government. So it's kind of it's called TAICA, Taiwan Creative Content Agency. So it's health government, health private. So it's more flexible to do things, and it's the model is from Korea. So we learn the same idea and same system, and we convince our government to put more money on the culture. And comic is very important for them because they think comic is very popular. So I think Slowork was very lucky because I'm not making popular comic at all. But they want comic, and also they want some content related with Taiwan that we can show our culture. But there's something I want to say, that in the beginning, I think they are too direct. Like they ask the project really related with Taiwanese history. So all the artists just specially looking for some history content for their proposal, but maybe that is not what they want to tell. And I don't really like this approach, but now we are more flexible, not that like intent to show directly our culture. And this is also the other reason that I launched Frontline Fellowship, because we are a team which is open to all nationality, and we looking for the story of the world. You can even talk about the story of the other culture if your proposal is in Mandarin, and we think it's very important. We think you are a good artist. We will accept your project, because for their nonfiction writing fellowship, there's some project about the other culture, not all about Chinese culture or Taiwanese culture or Hong Kong culture. And so I think the government have an intention behind, and then they give money, and this money is a huge amount, so it's very powerful. It's gonna influence the result of our content, and it's good and not good. It's good that artists get support and to create more, and their skill will be better if they can create more, and it's good for our image, it's good for everything. But I think if this influence is too strong, then it will also destroy some like more natural intention. Like maybe we will keep it and show something more that government want to show. Yeah. So I try to avoid it and create something private. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, I was only joking earlier, right? When I say that, those of us who gathered right now, obviously comics is more important than politics, but actually politics, I think, involve all of us, because the next US president is very important. What is his or her policy with regards to Taiwan, all right? And of course, with regards to Asia, all right, I think it will impact the rest of us. Yeah. And I think the other thing that came to mind when you mentioned that Slowork doesn't just publish Taiwanese books or stories, but also artists like Fish from China, and also artists from Hong Kong. And in fact, I think there are also some Hong Kong artists who have left Hong Kong and now residing in Taiwan, and of course for political reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. And I especially excited to wait for the project from Chinese and Hong Kongese artists, or those who are non-Taiwanese. Yeah, because I know that Taiwanese get a lot of support from government already, but I know that all the other Mandarin-speaking people in the world actually need help to create their comic. And they also have very, very good story.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to open up to questions. Yeah, I'm always eager to hear what do others think about what we just discussed. Yeah.
Can I speak?
Sure.
Yes.
Hey, I want to thank you both for speaking. It looks like really, really fascinating and beautiful work, and an enormous contribution to world culture. I'm looking forward to seeing the stuff in person. The questions I have concern a political aspect, I suppose. Maybe I can circulate, and then you can get a concept of the question I'm trying to ask, which is when it comes to political work, I understand that people in China, like you said, and cannot publish certain things. And now, from America, I have a limited knowledge of what goes on in these Asian countries. I'm embarrassed to say, it was only 10 or 15 years ago that I met some young women from Taiwan. And when they told me where they were from, I said, "Oh, China." And they were very annoyed with me, understandably. So I did a little research, and now I know a little bit more about what's going on. But it's hard to find really, really hardcore information from this part of the world. But my question is, in terms of what we get in the media, in the alternative media about, say, for instance, the digital ID and social credit system in China, and I wonder if this can become a subject of a comic, things like this, or for instance, you mentioned a comic about the pandemic. I wonder if a comic in Asia could or would, or if you would publish, or if this would interest you, something along the lines of examining the nature of psychological operations and their intent to create isolation and obedience from the people. Does this question, am I making this is a question for either of you, if either of you has any comments about this kind of a thing?
For me, every topic is possible. But now I'm trying to looking for the topic that is really like it's really good to make by comic. Like if we can show something that the other media couldn't show, like it will be difficult to show by only text, and it's difficult to make a film with that, then I would think it's a good topic. So it depends on the proposal, but everything is possible for me. Everything is so interesting for me. And I found that comic is actually very good to express the emotion and the abstract thing, like a psychological part of yeah, the inner part is very difficult to describe with only text. I think the text, pure text, actually have the more possibility. But for some people, they always need some visual. They need artists to help them to visualizing. Then comics is very good. And the abstract thing is difficult to make film because it's not there. So you can use the light, the sound to create a vibe, but sometimes it's very hard to shoot that. So I think comic is very good to express this kind of things. Yeah. So for what you propose, I think it's very interesting.
Thank you.
Any
Other
feedback?
questions?
Yeah, or other question?
So, yeah, I had a question. So, do your books get any distribution in mainland, the People's Republic of China?
Oh yeah, actually
Oh.
yes. So for some of book, it's distribute in the No More bookstore. So I have a distributor, and they distribute to Hong Kong, to Malaysia, to China. And for those which is not sensible, it's in all the bookstore. Not all the bookstore, for the bookstore who
So
want
what?
to read
Yeah.
it.
So
And
can you give an example of what a history in the Clearwater? Is that a book that's not distributed?
that one is impossible because in that one we show all the contemporary history of Taiwan with our perspective. So you see the process of democracy, and nowadays just impossible to show that in China because we show our president as well. The word of president is even ban in China. It's impossible to talk about presidents of Taiwan. Yeah. So yeah, and
Do people look at these things online though, through with
of course, like we have many followers from China, and there's an independent bookstore who sell our book. So not it's like all the topic is possible, but it's like not very it's not very official. Like it's a super underground bookstore. So I will not mention the name because I can cause them problems. But they sell a lot. They sell a lot. So
So
they
are your sales bigger in mainland China or in France?
Well, it's hard to say because in France they make French version, so it's also bigger because they have their distribution. But in mainland they buy our books directly and sell directly, but it could be a huge amount. Yeah.
Could be, yeah, it's a big
Like
population.
yeah, just one bookshop can be like a couple of hundred, like few hundred of copies. Yeah, it's a lot. But it depends on title. So the desire from China is not only about the censor the sensible issue. Actually, they also want something very creative, very like experimental. Those kind of book also sell very, very good in China. Yeah.
Right. So what are mainstream comics in Taiwan?
Oh,
You
it's
say
manga, Japanese manga.
manga.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
okay.
Translated,
Now,
yes. Manga style, yes.
Right.
yeah, and the Boys Love. Boys Love is very popular.
So is the old Master Q still happening is that from
That's from Hong
Hong
Kong,
Kong?
but it's also popular in Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia.
That's still publishing.
Yeah,
A
that
lot of reprints, I think. May not be new comics, a lot of reprints, yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
So those are
So
selling, what kind of numbers do those sell?
Oh, it
Mainstream.
depends. I'm not very good at number, but
okay.
it
I was
also
curious.
depends and because like now people read less and less, but in 18 and 90, the book selling is very, very, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, and even in New York's Chinatown, there were piles of old Master Q in every store when a new one came out. Literally several feet high. I mean,
Okay.
maybe 1,000, hundreds of copies. Yeah.
Ben, just now we were talking, just before we started, talking about alternative and underground comics and how that is sort of been redefined. So actually now we have example of underground comic in China by Slowork.
Something censored. So in other words, if you're pro-Western, that's considered an underground subject now to be pro. What do you call it? Democracy or Western democracy? That's an underground subject in some places. Okay. It's not an underground subject in America. That wouldn't interest people to read about subjects. So yeah, that's all very local and very time specific, right? So, but I guess as a form, I mean, if you go into a bookstore now and look at the what's called the comic section, it's mainly Fantagraphics drawn in quarterly, what we would think of as alternative comic, but they fill
Yeah, they're very
they're
well.
filling the market. The bulk of what people see. Some student just asked me, said, "Well, what do you consider alternative comics?" And I was thinking of these kind of comics that might have seemed alternative in this 70s or 80s that are now filling most bookstores. So yeah, these are all very time sensitive issues. These words, these names. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Pei-shan make a very good point earlier on when she said, so it's really very time and context specific. Because she was saying that 10 years ago, some of these books might be possible to be published or distributed in China, like Fish Wu's book, Letter from Taipei or Taiwan. Yeah. 10 years ago, but now it's not possible. So it's very time and context specific.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Now everything is in.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. What did you say? I didn't hear what you.
And now it's very tough time in China. Like everything which is negative is almost impossible. Just negative.
But
Don't need
people can get it. People, yeah, at least young people who have VPNs can get all.
Yeah. It is. But it's still different when you can distribute it and you cannot distribute it. Yeah, it's not everyone can use VPN, and using VPN is illegal in China. You can use it, But
Yeah.
when we want to give you the trouble, we can give you the trouble just because you have VPN in your
Yeah.
phone and everything is recorded. It's really scary. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of, I would say most of the Asian students in my school in New York are from the People's Republic, and they they seem to know a lot about comics from all over. They're young people who get on the internet and see a lot of things. And why they
They
come, I don't quite know what the I think they point out some subjects that are mainly in the area of certain kinds of imagery they say would not go over too well at home, uh, more than political issues. Uh, but anyway, yeah, but they were all happy to be in New York and
they're happy
enjoying.
to be anywhere
Yeah.
except
Yeah, I don't think they will. No, I don't think they want to stay in New York. That's the other. I always ask them, "Are you planning?" And no,
if they have
yeah,
choice, they don't want, but
yeah.
I
I
think
don't think.
sometimes they don't have choice. That is the sad part. I think the Western culture and Eastern culture is very different. So for many people, they prefer to stay at their hometown or home country, but sometimes you just don't have choice. Yeah.
Yeah, because of your own personal convictions, you have no choice but to leave home, right? Yeah.
Yeah, if they get a job to sponsor them, maybe they stay. But
There is a popular word in China since COVID called run, but we say run. So it's actually from run. It's mean everybody is trying to run away. But we use the word run because it's similar word, but we don't use the literary translation. We don't say pao. Literally is pao, or tao, it's run away. But we use the word run because it sounds like run, to say like everybody trying to run. They're trying to run away. It's terrible that this kind of word became popular.
yeah.
And there's no war in China. Yeah. So they just run away from their government. I have to stop to talk
Oh, yeah.
about this.
Right, you'll be over. Okay. Any other questions or
Anything else from the rest? Yeah. Well, with us today.
no? Okay. Thanks everybody for coming out on a busy night in America, and we'll see what happens. And thanks for showing us all these comics. We have to see them, and we can read some of them in English, so we'll get
Yeah.
to know what they're about.
Yeah.
Okay,
Have
thank
a
you.
better distribution in Europe, but and I hope in the future we can have more version in English. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right, right, right. Okay. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
thanks,
Thank
Ben.
you.
Thanks, Pei-shan. Thank you, everyone who turned up. Yep.
Thanks everyone for coming. And good night. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.